Now, for some bizarre reason, Tyson Fury fans just cannot wrap their heads around the concept of objectivity. It's the strangest thing. Let me give you a scenario. Let's say there are two guys. One of them's called Andy and the other one's called Barry. Now, Andy has one conviction for shoplifting 15 years ago. Got a slap on the wrist, but he's been a good boy ever since. Barry, on the other hand, is a repeat offender. He's a kleptomaniac, got a rap sheet as long as your arm, constantly in and out of court, constantly in and out of the slammer. In fact, he just came out of the slammer the other day and he's committing offenses again already. Now, the judge is not only going to punish Barry more often than he punishes Andy, but his punishments will be more severe because he keeps reoffending. Logical, right? Now, if you imagine that Andy is Alexander Usyk, Barry is Tyson Fury, and I'm the judge, and the punishment is critical videos, so every time they commit an offense, I make a video criticizing them. Tyson Fury fans think that the judge should be punishing Andy as often and as severely as he punishes Barry, even though Andy's only ever committed one offense in his entire life and served his punishment 15 years ago. They think that every time Barry gets sentenced, they should drag Andy back in court and sentence him as well. They think that's what objectivity is. I kid you not. This is how they think. They just cannot understand why the frequency and severity of the punishment should be contingent on the behavior of the individual. They just don't get it. They think that every time I criticize Tyson Fury, I should criticize Alexander Usyk an equal amount. They think that's what being objective is. No, that's not being objective. That's like the judge dragging Andy back in court and convicting him every time Barry commits another offense. That's literally the exact opposite of objectivity. That would actually be extreme bias against Andy and in favor of Barry, aka Tyson Fury. Look at Alexander Usyk's track record. Top fighter after top fighter that he's faced, unification after unification, back to back to back. No messing around. Straight down to action. How often does Alexander Usyk tell lies in public? Very rarely. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, lies nearly every time he opens his mouth. Massive, great big whoppers as well. He's got a long history of going back on his word, swerving fights, pricing himself out, messing around in negotiations. He's a repeat offender. So how on earth could I criticize Usyk as often and as severely as I criticize Fury? That makes no logical sense. That wouldn't be objective at all. That would actually be bias against Usyk and bias in favor of Fury, which is ultimately what you want. You want me to be a little Fury cheerleader, but you won't get that here. What you'll get here is objectivity, where the punishment fits the crime, not some kangaroo court where everyone gets an equal sentence regardless of which crime they've committed. That's ridiculous. Tyson Fury is a world champion who not only claims to be the best heavyweight of his generation, but the greatest of all time. Therefore, he needs to be held to that standard. And that means fighting Usyk in December, fighting all the top contenders, Hrgovic, Sanchez, Anderson, Ruiz, Zhang, all of them, and cleaning out the division. If he's not willing to do that, then he needs to stop calling himself the best heavyweight of his generation, stop calling himself the greatest of all time, and give up the belt. Then he can drift off into obscurity and fight whoever he wants to fight. A trilogy with John McDermott, Wings of Redemption on a Misfits card, I don't care. But as long as he's got a world title and he's making all these claims about himself, then he needs to be held to that standard. Tyson Fury's biggest purse to date was roughly $30 million. But the other day, Frank Warren said that Fury wouldn't be willing to fight Usyk for anything less than £150 million, which is roughly $190 million. Now, if that demand isn't met and the fight doesn't happen as a result, that's what you call pricing yourself out. You cannot justify that being a deal breaker when your highest ever purse was only a fraction of that amount. If Fury fought Usyk at Wembley, he'd only make a fraction of that amount. Normally, in big fights, the purses are derived from ticket sales and pay-per-view revenue. That is what they call the pot. and the fighters negotiate for a split of that money. But in Saudi Arabia, there are no purse splits, mandatories notwithstanding. They don't structure their deals that way. They do individual deals with each fighter and pay them an upfront amount based on what the fighter is worth to them for the purposes of promoting their country and satisfying Prince Khalid's desire to see certain fights as a fan. So there are no purse splits to argue about. You don't have to worry about pay-per-view sales and therefore what percentage of it you're getting because your entire purse is being paid up front. There is no fight in the world currently that will pay Tyson Fury as much money as Usyk and Saudi. AJ at Wembley, not even close. Usyk at Wembley, not even close. Usyk and Saudi is the biggest payday out there for Tyson Fury right now by a long, long way. It's also an undisputed unification. Therefore, there is no justification whatsoever for Fury not to take it. If they offer him anything over, let's say 50 or 60 million, he needs to sign a contract. He's not getting anything close to that anywhere else. This idea that Usyk signing a promotional deal with the Saudis somehow makes the fight less likely is completely ridiculous. Usyk already tried to make the fight twice before he was with the Saudis, and Fury scuppered it both times. If Fury don't want to fight, then he don't want to fight. It doesn't matter what Usyk does or who he signs with. If Fury don't want to fight, then he will always be able to find some excuse to worm his way out of it. Anyway, just had to explain in the clearest possible terms exactly what objectivity actually is, because these Fury fans just don't seem to get it. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.